Welcome to Todd and John's Monday night therapy session. As you can notice, I am in a festive mood, and I have my Aurora skylight behind me to remind me that everything's right in the world. How you doing, Todd? It was a win Saturday, so
Wins are wins. A win is a win. At least in this sport, you don't you don't earn points. You don't earn style points, I guess. So you're gonna take a win and feel good about it, 1-1, and move forward.
Is that what we're gonna do?
That's what I'm gonna do this week.
We don't get to move forward until Wednesday night.
Well,
right now, where did you watch the game Saturday?
I watched it at my parents' house.
Okay, so you just on TV in Lincoln.
I watched it on TV in Lincoln, and here's the story. I was supposed to go to the game with my dad, and after the fiasco in Dublin, the drubbing in Dublin, I appealed to my son, my 23-year-old son, who has absolutely no interest in sports at all and no interest in Nebraska football, but he does enjoy spending time with his grandpa. And so I appealed to my son and said, your two cousins are going to go to the Wisconsin and the Minnesota game. What would you think about going to the football game Saturday with your grandpa? He said, oh, okay. So I panned it off on my son because I did not want to be in the stadium on Saturday because of what I feared was going to happen. So I guess I'm a loser fan. I'm a loser fan. I didn't want to sit through what we had seen in Dublin.
Well, the first half was pretty. It was pretty terrible. I think I did the first half article recap, and I called it the saddest half in Nebraska football history. Kind of an exaggeration, but that's what you do when you write headlines. You get the web hits. I don't think it was clickbaity because I don't think it was really. I don't think it was really that far from the truth. It was. The first half, when they had the ball 20 minutes compared to our 9.
Yep.
They ran what was it, a 12-play, 16-play drive?
16-play drive. Yep.
Yeah, and then our head coach inexplicably he called timeouts. Well, to aid them in their scoring. What the hell was that about?
And Nebraska had the ball 4 times in the first half. And I don't remember the numbers on this, but I think they ran half of the plays, that North Dakota did. And you talk about inexplicable things from our head coach, and I guess, we'll just jump on it right now. One of my pet peeves, I got to clarify this first. One of my pet peeves is I hate those running off the field to the locker room interviews. The media has become so invasive, and I saw a high school game on TV a couple Thursdays ago where the sideline reporter talked to a kid on the bench. Thank God they're not doing that. But I hate those, grab the coach and try to get a few more comments. Scott Frost was not in the frame of mind to be interviewed at that point. And I thought that that's unfair. And anyway, so the sideline reporter grabs him. And he says, something along the line of, well, the defense is playing just fine. We've got to figure things out on offense. Well, the offense hadn't played great, but the offense hardly had the ball. And the reason they didn't have the ball was because the defense couldn't stop North Dakota from going up and down the field. It just seemed weird. And what do you read between the lines there? Is Coach Frost, is he threatened by Mark Whipple? Was Mark Whipple doing, calling an offense or calling plays that Scott didn't agree with? I don't know what it was. I just thought it was a very strange comment for that point of the game.
I don't know. I think if somebody was to stop me in the middle of that, I'd just say words. I really wouldn't think. I'd be thinking about something over here. I'd be thinking about, I need to talk to Casey Thompson about his rollouts. I need to talk to our center about something, and I would just say words. I don't really put a lot of You know, we both bashed Frost a lot for his post-game pressers and the stupid stuff he says, but those halftime things or in-game things, I wouldn't put any credence in them whatsoever. Because I thought the defense isn't playing well. What the hell are you talking about? And then I thought, well, he's thinking about other things. Then the second half came out, and Nebraska put them away. I mean, they did what we lost a double-digit lead, didn't we? Yeah. And then then they put them away. I mean, they did. What was the final score? 38-17?
38-17, yeah. 17-17. It was tied at and then Nebraska, they made me happy, and they made a lot of people who kind of look at the game of football the same way I do. They ran the damn ball. And, again, unfortunately, I'm not one of these guys. I have a lot of things that I'm kind of trying to do during games and whatnot. And I do not go back and rewatch games like, a lot of fans do and try to diagnose different things. But, they were able to run the ball. And Anthony Grant, he looked like, a Nebraska running back. God, it was fun to watch. But my point being is that, the offense finally found an answer. They finally found a way to run the football. And whether that was because, you've got, FBS linemen, playing against FCS linemen, and people want to argue, dispute that a little bit. There's a lot of good players on those FCS football teams. There are really a lot of good players, and a lot of them don't get FBS scholarship offers because of their size or something like that. It isn't necessarily because of their skills or their drive or their talents. A lot of times it's because of size. And what it appeared to me is that eventually, Nebraska's offensive line, was pushing and leaning on those guys the whole game, and they eventually won, I think. But the schemes changed a little bit too, and you could see that, and it was fun to watch. Run the damn ball guy, me, Todd Wolverton. I loved watching that part of the game.
Okay, Anthony Grant got Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week or whatever it is for Nebraska. Would you like to take a guess when Nebraska last had an Offensive Player of the Week in the Big Ten?
2017.
Close. 2018. Okay. That is pretty horrifying, isn't it? You know what I mean? Okay, yeah. Then we ran one triple option play in the second half. Scott Frost had a play sheet, and everybody said, "Oh, we won because Scott Frost took over play calling in the second half, and Mark Whipple's horrible because he throws the ball, and this is what we want to see. We want to see a Nebraska physical team run the balls down somebody's throat, and Scott Frost has figured it out." How do you respond to all that stuff?
Well, okay, as far as the triple option play is concerned, boy, that was fun to watch. But the reason they ran that is because Casey Thompson, our quarterback, son of Charles Thompson, former Oklahoma triple option quarterback, in the huddle before that play, he got down on a knee and he drew the play out and said, "We're going to do this. It's called a triple option." And so he played backyard football and just ran the play because he knew that Nebraska fans would just go totally bonkers. That little kid was born running the triple option. Well, whatever. But the triple,
he probably was actually.
He probably was. But we'd heard in preseason, one of the days when reporters were allowed to watch a little bit of practice, they said that they were working on some option stuff. So no surprise that it came out. Maybe a little bit of surprise that they didn't put Logan Smothers in to run it. But, the whole thing with Scott Frost calling plays immediately after the game, in his press conference after the game, and I was listening to it because I was stuck in horrendous traffic on my way to the volleyball game. See, that's what I did. I sold out. I made my son go to the football game so I could go watch the volleyball game. But I'm listening to I'm listening to the post game, and Scott said, one of the reporters said, "So what can you tell us about calling plays in the second half?" And Scott Frost shut it down right then. He said, "I'm not going down that path. We're not talking about that." And good for him. I mean, that's that again. He's the one that has to control the message. And I don't have any problem with the way that he responded to that question. Today, apparently, during one of the during a press conference today, he gave kudos to Coach Whipple and the job that he did calling plays in the second half. So who knows? Darn well that Scott Frost is going to have input on the offense, and as a head coach, he's entitled to do that. Did they talk at halftime? Did Frost tell Whipple, "Hey, we got to run the ball more," or "I want to see this package of plays being called"? He may well have done that, and he has the authority to do that. He had a play sheet. Was he calling the plays? I don't know. I didn't see a microphone on his headset when they showed him on TV. Whatever. I just don't. I don't think that's an issue. It's not an issue.
Okay, I'm going to put a couple comments up here. Let's see. Blaine Cole says hello from Japan. Hello, Blaine. Thanks for joining us from Japan. I don't even know what time it is over there, but I imagine it's got to be the middle of the night. Let's see. Jack the Ripper says I'd rather hit myself in the head with a hammer than go to an NU game. I think I'm going to do a video about that at some point, about how Nebraska fans should just keep going to the games, even if the football is going to be terrible. And the reason is because the fan experience is good. Wait a minute. Jace went to the game. What did he think of it?
Good hot dogs. Good hot dogs. And he thought he got a good deal on the soda.
That was it?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. He said, I asked him a question because I couldn't tell watching it on TV, but I asked him, were the fans booing? And he says, yeah. He said, I could hear it probably 3 or 4 times that the fans were booing. And, again, Jace does not pay close attention. He was at the game to be there with his grandpa. But he did make a comment that he'd been in that stadium when it was louder and crazier. And he's gone to games since he was a little boy. My dad, he walked away from the game saying, well, it was better than last week. That was kind of his comment. And I did talk immediately after the game with one of your old roommates who was back to Nebraska visiting with his family. I talked to him right after the game, and he said it was a strange crowd, and you could cut the tension in the stadium with a knife at times during the game. He said there were times during the game when it was very uncomfortably quiet. But as far as hitting yourself in a hammer rather than going to Nebraska games, okay, so I'm a hypocrite because I didn't go this last weekend, but I am looking forward to going to game, the Oklahoma game in a couple of weeks. I'm planning to go to that game, and I still like the fan experience, but I guess I've gotten old and lazy, but I'd rather watch a game on TV. I really would. And
we'll take another one from Blaine Cole. Did Nebraska have a sellout for the North Dakota game? Yes, they did. And I think the next 2 games are actually sold out as well. And then we're going to see what happens when we get into the conference. Todd, if I can find it, I have a comment here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I'll read the comment. Mike Faust says, what's frustrating? A lot of these other programs have been progressing like Florida State. And here is Nebraska looking like the same garbage. Well, Florida State, they had, who'd they play, Todd?
Well, Florida State played LSU. And
they did. Brian Kelly team.
Brian Kelly team. Yeah. And I've always been an LSU fan until they hired Brian Kelly. I don't care much for him.
Same.
But I've always loved the Bayou Bengals. They're a lot of fun and liked them since I was a little kid. But I honestly was cheering for Florida State the other night. And Florida State, here's the thing. A lot of times, we get kind of tunnel vision, and Florida State's kind of gone through a lot of the same problems and a lot of the same issues that Nebraska has in recent years. Here are two, former powerhouses, Bobby Bowden, Tom Osborne. You had Orange Bowl games and missed field goals, and both of them powerhouses in the 80s and the 90s, and they both have seen better days until recently. Now, Scott Frost in year 5, he was brought back to Nebraska to right the ship, and in year 5, they get beat by Northwestern and they struggled against North Dakota. And in year 3, Mike Norvell got his signature win at Florida State by knocking off LSU. Now, LSU only won 2 games last year, but LSU is absolutely loaded with talent. I mean, it's not LSU does not have a talent shortage down there. And it was the first game that Brian Kelly coached, and so you always have those first game growing pains. Granted, but in year 3, with Mike Norvell as the head coach, Florida State got their signature win. Scott Frost's signature win is 9-6 against Michigan State in a snowstorm. So we're still waiting on that.
Okay, I'll just say this really quick. Mike Schuster, hey John, got any more of those nasty nuts? Okay, I did a YouTube short video of me eating some dried beans after the game. Mostly because I'm still learning how YouTube works, and I keep trying to mix shorts in with the other stuff to see what happens with them, and it was really kind of dumb. But I did eat some dried green pinto beans, and they were terrible. Okay. Brian Anderson. This was not a win, just a realization of how bad our team really is. We have a good running back and quarterback, but no defense and no offensive line. You want to comment on that?
It was a win. It was a win. Nebraska is 1-1. It's a win. You know what? Iowa won, and Iowa fans probably feel like they got kicked in the nuts. Timeout. For 4 quarters they got kicked in the nuts. Iowa fans cannot probably feel real good about what they watched the other day, but it was a win. And who knows how the season's going to unfold for both of these teams. I'm not real confident in this team yet, but I'm not going to give away a victory. There's no reason to do that. I want the team to win every weekend. And if there are people out there that want Nebraska if there are Nebraska fans that would rather see Nebraska get beat so that moves Scott Frost out the door faster, I can't agree with that. If you're a fan, you want your team to win every game. You and I are on the record as far as our feelings about the leadership of Scott Frost. But I'm not going to sit here and wish that this team loses football games.
Did you watch any other Big Ten teams?
Yeah, I watched some of Iowa. That was.
I was stuck to that game because it was well. First of all, I watched Illinois versus Indiana, Penn State, Purdue. I did not watch Michigan because they beat the shit out of who they played. I watched Minnesota because I have Minnesota people in my household, and they beat up New Mexico State. And then there was Iowa. I'll go back through those teams, but my God, during the offseason, Iowa fans were told they were going to have a new look offense. And apparently their new look offense was that they weren't going to have an offense at all. They put out quarterback ratings recently, I think today for the Big Ten. Casey Thompson is 1 ahead of the worst quarterback in the Big Ten, and that is Spencer Petras for Iowa, who had a quarterback rating of 1.1. I didn't know you could have a quarterback rating of 1.1, but apparently he did it. But I mean, Iowa, they punted their way to winning. They field positioned everything, and they got 2 safeties. It was pretty amazing.
Exactly. What I thought was a hoot about the Iowa situation is that the Cedar Rapids Gazette, which Cedar Rapids is a half an hour from Iowa City, and that's Hawkeye country. And their headline yesterday, in the Sunday paper, it was something like Iowa gets victory or whatever, or Iowa victory, but it had no O in Iowa, a no O in victory, because there was no O for Iowa. I just got a chuckle out of that.
Illinois versus Indiana. I thought Indiana was Illinois. Just, I don't know. Neither of these teams looked that good, but I thought Indiana, if they can straighten out their quarterback problems, what was it, Connor Basilik, I think that they'll be a decent team. I mean, they were terrible last year, but those 2 teams. And then I watched Penn State and Purdue, and my thought was Purdue is going to beat the living shit out of us. I mean, Aiden O'Connell's a pretty decent quarterback. Charlie Jones, talk about no offense for Iowa. I don't know how many receptions he had, but I imagine the Iowa fans got really tired of hearing Charlie Jones' reception. Yeah. But played well for Purdue, and then the other offensive player of the week, I believe, was Sean Clifford from Penn State. And watching him, I could make you go bald from tearing your hair out. But he did at the final drive. I mean, he pulled the game out and won it for him. And I don't know. Penn State, their offense just seems so mishmash, and it doesn't run well, but they still beat Purdue at the end. Purdue's Jeff Brom didn't run the ball. He could have ran the game out if he'd have run the ball a little bit more, and he just didn't. So sometimes when you look at things and you go, why in the hell isn't he doing that? And you're standing over here off the field. I have no idea why coaches make those decisions. Kind of like the onside kick Frost called. And then I did mention in my post-game reaction, it was probably a squib kick that hit a guy, and it was a squib kick. All right, here's a comment from Chris Tussing. Why do you think the lines on both sides are being pushed around so much? Is it a talent problem, a strength problem, a practice physicality issue, or just scheme related? You want to take a shot at that?
I tell you what, I think it's a talent problem. It would seem to me that, well, people could argue it's a strength and conditioning issue. I mean, they could certainly make that argument, but I don't have enough knowledge about that, and how good Nebraska's program is. I haven't heard people who know about strength and conditioning speak critically of Nebraska's program. But to me, I just, we got a lot of the same names out there that we had out there last year. And I don't know. They're just getting out horsed. Maybe it's a mental part of the game. And, we've talked about how in both games, Northwestern and North Dakota were both more physical than Nebraska was up front in both games. And physicality is mental. It is mental. Of course, if you're not, if there's a huge discrepancy in strength and size, that has something to do with it. But I'll tell you what, it's, what do they say? It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but it's the size of the fight in the dog. And that's mental. And maybe we just need more mental toughness with those guys up front.
I think today they came out and said they're going to practice more one-on-ones. And you're kind of like, why? Okay, it's the 5th year, and now you're finally figuring out that your guys need to, because the defense just missed tackles again all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, we let an FCS team that won 4 games last year push us around on defense and make guys look like idiots whiffing with the arm tackles again. And, a lot of that is they're not practicing physically in practice, so they're not going to do it at a game. I think that's the biggest issue for me is is they're probably, they're not being physical practice. I mean, let's face it, Tom Osborne years ago, those guys got into fights all the time. Okay. Those guys got into fights in practice, and their practices were hell because he didn't want them getting into fights in games. And that's really how that worked out. In the end, if you remember what bowl game was it? We were playing Miami, and, they started, who they hit? One of our offensive players, they tried getting him into a fist fight, and he just took it and got a critical 15-yard penalty against Miami. Anyway, all right, what do we got?
Well, I see a question coming up from Aaron. Go ahead. No, let's talk about this one. I saw that one too.
Okay.
Yeah, I that's a good point. But the position coaches are the ones that work most closely with the players, and Coach Raiola is a guy that's going to have to build that toughness with those guys. With Coach Frost, he's the head of the ship, and I've said for years that one of the shortcomings of the teams that he's coached at Nebraska is a lack of mental toughness, knowing how to persevere through difficult times and fight through tough situations. So, Brian, I think that's the question. That's a good question. I don't know that there is an answer to that.
Okay, I'll take this one. John Roten says, every year I get suckered into believing that we are going to be world beaters. I blame the media, Hail Varsity, Omaha World Herald, etc. If we're a bad team, just tell us we're a bad team. Stop sugarcoating garbage. Well, out of fairness to those guys, they have to rely on what the coaches tell them because they don't get to see, what's going on. They don't get to see practices, and any coach anywhere is going to say that they have good players and they're ready to go and all that stuff. There's one quote that sticks out in my mind. I think it was, you remember in the 80s, Todd, when Northwestern had like a 31 game losing streak, and they finally won a game, and they tore down the goalpost and marched them to Lake Michigan, yelling one in a row, and threw them in the lake.
I don't remember that. But...
And I think it was, I want to say their coach's name was Pepper Rogers. I remember seeing him years later talk about that losing streak and how he felt every time that they went out on the field that they were going to win a game. And that's just how he felt. And then they didn't. So, I think that the problem with the sugarcoating is if they don't do that, people are going to get mad at them. And I've said this before, they're kind of expected to play homers. A lot of people like that. I know that now we're kind of like, okay, you did it again, and we're not going to believe anything. So, it's really hard to take. But again, the coaches are telling them stuff. They don't get to see it themselves and report on it.
Every team is optimistic going into the season. I don't care who you are. Vanderbilt is optimistic. Rice. Every team is optimistic going into the season, and that's you want to put that spin on things.
Paul Braun says, "Why is Nebraska fielding kickoff returns and punts all the time? See all the other Big Ten teams returning kicks. When was the last time we had a kick returner take it to the house?"
Well, I don't know when the last.
You don't know.
I saw one at Iowa City quite a few years ago, but I don't remember one since. With the way the rules are written, I haven't watched enough football this year. John, you've seen quite a bit. At least on kickoffs, I don't think it's a bad strategy to fair catch. You get the ball at 25. I've seen a lot of teams in the last, since you could start fair catching kickoffs, I've seen a lot of teams that have tried to return them and they don't get to the 25. I mean, if you're guaranteed the ball on the 25, I think that's a good move, good strategy. With the punts, I've been surprised that Nebraska has not been able to field a punt and attempt a return. And, what that comes down to is, in my opinion, again, is the guys up front. Are they holding up the gunners? Are they, what kind of a job are they doing to slow those guys down so that the returners have a chance to to, run with the ball.
I'm going to put Linda Wilkins up here because she comments on YouTube all the time. Linda Wilkins says it was not pretty, but it was our win. I'll take what I can get. That's kind of how this week feels, or the last one feels. Okay, a lot of you are asking questions about firing the coach and who we're going to get for the coach. And let's see here. Brian Anderson, what are the odds of Frost being let go come October 1st? I think it's time any other program would let the coach go by now. I listen, we have a Slack room that we use to communicate amongst our writers. And I kind of feel like right now harping on this stuff, it's going to happen. I mean, I think there were 6 minutes of the left of the Northwestern game, and I tweeted, "This is done." And I wasn't just talking about the game. I think it's apparent. It's just pretty clear that this is not working with Scott Frost that we wanted, the way that we wanted it to. I mean, it's just apparently clear to me. I still see a lot of comments from people that are holding out hope that somehow he turns it around. But I got to tell you right now, if you're sitting there last week and we're playing an FCS team that was picked to finish 7th in their conference, the Missouri Valley Conference, I think there's 12 teams in their conference, and you're worried about that game, it's kind of done. Okay? And we're worried about beating Georgia Southern this weekend, a team that put up 49 points against Morgan State. If you are worried about, oh my God, what if we lose? This is over. There's no reason for you to even be asking yourself, how are we going to pull out of this? Maybe there'll be some magic turnaround. It's just not going to happen. I wish it would happen. I really do, because watching us get manhandled by an FCS team was just shit. It was terrible, and it was depressing. And after a while, you look at it and you go, I'm tired of losing. I don't give a damn about who the names are anymore. I just want our team to play well and start winning. And I don't see that happening. Somebody else asked about win totals for the rest of the year. I don't know. I guess we're just going to take this a week at a time and then see what happens. Oh God, we got to get this one, Todd. Lonnie Wells says, you media people are just a bunch of clickbait whores and should not constantly leading this conversation about our football coach. But I'm a clickbait whore. Last week we were garbage. This week we're clickbait whores. I'm not sure where the hell he gets the clickbait stuff. You know what I mean?
I don't know whether to feel good about being called media. I thought we were just two old guys that had a podcast.
Right, exactly.
Well,
you should not be constantly leading this conversation about our football coach. Well, you know what? I'm guessing the same conversation's happening all over the world because Nebraska fans are all over the world. I guess I've seen so many people. We've gotten a lot of YouTube comments on the Corn Nation website. It's just people hanging on, still looking for something to happen. And, that's why the season's just going to play out. All right. And we don't have to go, fire him right now because, it's already September 5th, and October 1st isn't that far away. And who knows, maybe somebody, I don't know, maybe something will happen.
John,
after saying all that, Randy,
it's got to play out a little bit. And, there's been a lot of opinions expressed, and, they got Georgia Southern coming this week. If they are horrible against Georgia Southern, I think that just, makes the decision a little bit easier. And, they play Oklahoma, and, for the life of me, I feel like Nebraska is going to show up and play well against Oklahoma. I don't have any data to support that. I mean, there is nothing that has happened, to give me that kind of hope. But, I don't know. I got a feeling. And the reality is The reality is that nothing's going to happen with Scott Frost until October. It's not going to happen. And how long he stays at Nebraska is going to be determined by how the next 5 or 6 weeks go with this football team. And I got mixed emotions about whether it's the right idea to cut a guy loose during the season or not. We can argue both sides of that issue, but he's the head coach right now. He's the head coach for this season. John and you and I both said he should have been cut loose last year. That was our opinions. But right now, I don't know. And the Bradley's question right there. I couldn't believe it.
How on earth did the walk-on try to grab that punt? Why has nobody beat that point ad nauseum?
Well,
that was possibly one of the stupidest plays I've seen. I mean, I'm just a player. It was just unbelievably dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. And they did bring it up quite, they addressed it on the game. They came back after commercial and the commentators were kind of like, what is this guy doing? And I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I thought, holy smokes. And then, they have to review that play to determine whether or not Nebraska has possession. I mean, holy smokes.
Right.
I thought, oh my God.
Okay. M. Goboski, Michigan fan here. I had to live through the Rich Rod and Brady Hoke. It gets better. Hang in there. Here's the interesting comments lately that I've seen on social media from some Nebraska fans is Michigan hung on to Jim Harbaugh, and look what happened. And you kind of look at that and you go, have you even seen these two records of these two coaches compared side by side? Jim Harbaugh was winning 9 and 10 games a year. He just wasn't beating Ohio State and Michigan State.
Right.
The two teams you have to beat. He wasn't a bad coach. Scott Frost to this point has been a very bad coach. He's one of the – you take all the single-year guys out of Nebraska's football history, and the only person he's a better coach than is Bill Jennings. And Bill Jennings had signature wins over Oklahoma and Notre Dame. Bill Jennings didn't have the conference record as shitty as Frost does. So, it's just like people that just spewing stuff to hang on to something that's already passed by. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Just part of me, I was thinking about this today. Part of me is I wonder if people are hanging on to this like me. All right. Last year I said Scott Frost needs to be fired. Okay. Well, let's say something happens. He beats Oklahoma and then he beats Indiana and Rutgers and then he beats everybody else. Well, everybody can come back and say, John, you're an idiot and you were wrong. You know what that is? Fine with me because we'd have a winning football program. But I wonder about how all these people, when they go on message boards or they go down to drink coffee or have a beer, and they're like, I'm a Scott Frost guy, and they just don't want to let that go ever. You think it has something to do with just not wanting to be wrong?
Well, I think that has something to do with it, yes.
Oh, okay. Hey, you know what? I have been working on, just for an announcement, here you go. I have been working on actually making some t-shirt designs. This is a t-shirt with the hashtag of there is no hope, fuck everything, go big red. This is a plain shirt with just Cobby on it. So that hopefully that's coming and we'll see what happens. And I don't think I'll make any really negative Scott Frost sucks kind of t-shirts just because, quite frankly, I expect them to be short-lived. You know what I mean? We're going to go on after that, and we're just going to we'll see who our next coach is, and we'll talk about who the next coach is when that time comes.
We've got quite a few people, that are tossing questions up there about, certain coaches. I just saw Matt Campbell's name and Urban Meyer and some of those people come through, and let's save conversation for that. When Scott Frost is let go, we'll have plenty of time to talk about who we potentially.
John Roten says, "Did you see the YouTube video of a Sooner fan's reaction to the Dublin loss? He basically said he genuinely felt sorry for Nebraska fans. We used to be a blue blood." That's just it, Todd. People don't give a shit anymore. You know what was happening on? You know what happens on Twitter? And Twitter in the Iowa game, I was not abusing Iowa fans any more than they were abusing themselves. But you know what did not happen on Twitter, Todd?
Wasn't paying attention, John.
I didn't get any shit from Iowa fans. And you know what that means? That means we're so pathetic they're not even giving me shit. And I mean, mostly I was bagging on their offense, but that is a sad state of the program when you're to that point. Okay, what else we got? We still got 20 minutes to go, Todd.
Well, you know, we can adjust here just to.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Husker volleyball game.
Oh, well, I tell you what, that was my first experience at a Husker volleyball game at Devaney. You know, I used to go to quite a few games when I was in college, but you know, that was back in the day when Terry Pettit was the coach and Kathy Noth was the center and some of those other people. But it was quite an experience being in Devaney, and I felt very fortunate to be able to get tickets because of the sellout. But you know, there's what really stood out to me, and you know, again, one of the, I don't know, when we watch teams play on television or when we listen to teams play on the radio, there's no substitute for being in the arena and, you know, just feeling the energy, the excitement. But the seats that I had, I was 15 feet away from the players, you know, that were standing at the edge of the bench, you know, when the players that weren't on the court and, you know, not that far from the service line either. But I'll tell you what, I could not believe the size and the athleticism of Nebraska's players, and Ole Miss had some players too. I mean, you know, I understand Nebraska, you know, swept them, but just to see, you know, girls that have that size, women that have that size and athleticism is just it's just amazing. So, you know, that I'll tell you, I had a good Saturday. I mean, the football team I cheer for won. The football team that I hate almost lost, and the volleyball team, you know, that I got to go watch, they won. So, you know, it was a good Saturday for me.
Do you ever feel like when you're in Devaney that you're part of a cult?
I don't know. I've been in Devaney for a lot of different reasons, so I guess.
Well, I mean, for the volleyball matches,
I've only been there the one.
I was down there courtside. I was down courtside with my camera once. The ball came to me, and I kind of, you know, tossed it over to a ball girl, and this young woman to the right of me yells at me, and she said, "You did that wrong." And I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "When the ball comes off the court over here, you give it to me, I give it to him, and they pass the ball around like some kind of like cultish, you know what I mean? There's a ritual for everything.
There is.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. You know, and they had cheers. My favorite was always Michaela Fecky's. You got Fecky.
Well, yeah,
you know, and Sunburn.
They had a lot of that kind of stuff going on. So I guess I didn't notice it that much. You know, there are some questions. Let's shift back to football. What is the result you'd be happy with for next week against Georgia? What would make me happy would be a 24-plus point win where the offense looks sharp and where the defense, you know, gets off the field. That's what would make me happy.
That's a good point. I mean, okay, you answered that. We're going to move on. It's really hard, you guys, to, you know, especially because both of us are really old, to follow all these comments at the same time, trying to pay attention to what's going on. Wait a minute, Dave, you need to clarify this one. Oh, wait a minute.
Hey, I saw John, something about a volleyball team I hate. I'm not hating on any
I thought that's the one I was trying to put up, but I clicked on the wrong one. How many instant reactions do you expect to record from your bathroom for the remainder of the season? Oh my God. You know, almost all of them. I'm not going to do, you know what? Here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, that you have to understand. I'm trying to do my best not to get very upset and angry during games because it really adds to my stress. It causes a severe headache. So normally, if we lose really badly, I'll probably just leave the house and walk into the woods in -5 weather and do something outside. Oh my God, here it is. David Weiss or Weiss says this guy actually has a volleyball team he hates. How can anybody be invested in a volleyball team, for fuck's sakes?
Well, don't you say that to volleyball fans, damn it. Those people are passionate. And he misheard me. I don't have a volleyball team I hate. Jeez. Hey, there's a good question. Yeah, go ahead.
How about that one?
I saw that. I didn't know that was said.
Yeah. Okay, so Danielle McAdams says, what are your thoughts on Chancellor Brewington saying average fans do nothing for the program because they don't give money and are just born here? I don't know if he said that exactly, but I didn't see the context of what he was talking about. But I'll say this, and I'm stealing this directly from Nate McHugh. Nate McHugh in our Slack room. I put that in the Slack room, and Nate McHugh would respond, college kids with microphones. And I thought, that's a really good response, mostly because if I was that age, that's probably something I would have said. I don't think I'd put a lot of stake in it. I think that maybe, God knows what the context was, but I'd really just let that one go and not hold it against them because they're young guys that aren't used to talking to anybody. And listen, there's plenty to get angry about, and there's plenty to be upset about without, taking one-offs from a football player who says something dumb.
Chancellor Brewington had a good game.
Yeah, he did. Asawar Sajid says, John, if we beat OU, where will you be sitting? I don't know if he means you mean sitting on the fence or with Scott Frost. I'm not sure what that means. So we'll answer it multiple ways. If we beat Oklahoma, I would assume we'd beat Georgia Southern, and we'd be what, 3-1? And like I said, we'll just let the rest of the season play, it's going to play out one way or another, and if we do end up start beating teams, it could happen. I don't expect it, but I'll be perfectly happy to be wrong, like I said, because we'd have a winning football team. If you mean where will I be sitting doing a post-game reaction, I don't, here's the thing about the post-game reactions things. Those just hit me. I think a little bit about what I'm going to say, but I don't write anything down, and I just go with whatever comes out of my mouth. That's where there is no hope, fuck everything, go big red came from. It just, from my screwed up brain to out of my mouth. And as Todd knows, this has gotten me in trouble many times in my life. And pick a comment, Todd.
Well, let's stick with Oklahoma. And, there's been a couple of questions up there. There's one somewhere along the line that, okay, why are, Georgia Southern's Georgia Southern, the big game is OU, and what do we think of? Well, you know what? It does. If Nebraska loses to Georgia Southern, I could care less what happens in Oklahoma. I mean, I don't know if I will be able to haul myself up out of the depths of despair that I'll find myself in if we get beat by Georgia Southern. But what are our chances against Oklahoma? Well, I haven't seen Oklahoma play yet, but it's Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Nebraska played well last year down in Norman, and Nebraska could have walked out of that game with a victory. We can talk about drinking a lot of Kool-Aid. We can talk about a lot of crazy things, but when they line up on Saturday in Memorial Stadium, I think Nebraska will have a chance to win. And if they beat Oklahoma, then that means that this football team is either 3-1 or 2-2. And if they're 3-1, I think you got to feel pretty good. Now, then they go into Big Ten play. And, who knows what's going to happen. But, Brent Venables is he's a damn good defensive coach.
Yeah.
Back when Nebraska was looking for head coaches a couple of times, I was kind of hopeful that maybe Brent Venables would be on the short list, and who knows, maybe he was. But he's also trying to pull together a program that lost a lot of good players through the portal. And, who knows how good Oklahoma is going to be. But I've got to believe that if Nebraska's got a chance to beat Oklahoma.
Richard Johnson says, what about Chenander? Totally overrated. His group gives 450 yards for 4 years. What do you think about?
Is that an average? Is that average, right? 450 yards a game?
His defensive have not been very good.
Well, he's coached with that bend but don't break mentality. Last year, the team played quite well. This year, to me, it's a mystery because, I understand.
Yeah, I think it's that. I think that all has to go back to that. We don't practice like we play thing. They don't practice physical. So
there you go.
That's what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of whips and arm tackles because you're not catching game speed. Yeah. So I think somebody on YouTube made the comment, you hired a coach that was a winner at G5 and he built you a G5 team. And I thought, wow, that's pretty on target there. Okay, this guy. Hi, Mountain Guy says, name. If you're looking for less stress, John, you picked the wrong team. Well, you know what? Here's the problem with that is it's a matter of being emotionally connected to what you're watching. And I've always been kind of an emotional person. Todd can vouch for that. Never been really good at hiding my emotions. So, if I pick the team, I can stay pretty emotionless about the NFL. And my family yesterday actually had our annual NFL fantasy draft. And I have no idea what I'm doing with that stuff. I didn't finish last year. So that's, the big thing about that. But if we lose on Saturday, I'll just go, oh, gee, maybe my fantasy team will not be just slaughtered on Sunday. What? We missed that. CB Williams says, think they can compete with Michigan. I didn't mean to put that up there. I clicked on the wrong one. These damn things move. No, we cannot compete with Michigan. We'll just say that right now. Here's the accolade. So we put that one up that said we were a bunch of whores. We'll put this up from Charlie Huntsman. I love Corn Nation better than the big name media, aka ESPN. Thank you, Charlie. We appreciate that very much. Sometimes my psyche needs. Oh my God! Look at this. Adam Michael Fellows, John, I love your videos, especially after the Nebraska football games. Keep them coming. That's the plan. Owen Walker says, Frost did say he will have more ones versus ones in practice. Thank goodness, right? Yeah. What's shocking about this is why did he wait so long? They didn't practice. They never practiced like this when he was in college, ever.
I don't have an answer. I don't know. But John,
you remember those big thick books I keep showing you?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I'm gonna do a video soon about the 90s because people complain that we live in the 90s. But a guy named Paul Koch wrote 2 massive books called Anatomy of an Era, and they contain the untold story of the 90s. And if you look in those books, you will hear a lot of stuff about the pit. Okay, the pit was should I explain that? You know what? I guess it's in public. Nobody ever talks about this stuff. But the pit was a place where the tunnel walk comes out right now. But it was a little room or a big area where the offensive and defensive linemen could go in and practice away from Tom Osborne. And they would just basically beat the living shit out of each other. They would fight. They would do all sorts of stuff. So this whole idea that we're going to practice and we don't practice one-on-ones is just no idea. Maybe that's how they did it in the group of 5 at UCF, but I don't I don't understand why he's done this. Now that his back's against the wall, I guess. Okay, what do we got? There was one.
There was one about we don't need to stomach Bielema because he's bringing his own.
Jesus, that is one thing I did tweet during the Illinois Indiana game was my God, how many people has Brett Bielema eaten lately? Because he just he's not Mark Mangino huge, but he's honest to God, he's either gained a lot of weight or he's carrying his own 8-gallon keg around in a suit. And maybe coaching at Illinois does that to a guy.
Oh, he was on his way when he was at Wisconsin.
Okay, wait. Somebody up here said something about Georgia Southern has a lot of speed. Are we worried about that?
I think you have to be worried about everything. I don't think that Nebraska is in a position right now where they can overlook any aspect of any team. And I think Nebraska's got speed. They have speed. What they haven't shown us is that they can shut things down at the line of scrimmage on the defensive side of the ball. So, yeah.
Okay, I just lost one. Oh, you can pin messages. I got to learn this stuff. Okay, M. Gaboski again. Well, you know what? We're coming up on 56 minutes. We'll finish with kind of a softie. M. Gaboski says, "What's your favorite away game stadium in the Big Ten?"
Of the ones I've been to, this is I've kind of a tie. I love being at Camp Randall because of just the fun. I've been there to 2 games, and I've had Nebraska was on. There goes Melvin Gordon again. Damn, he just keeps running. I've been there for 2 games, but the atmosphere was great. It was a lot of fun to be at Camp Randall. Now, people are going to laugh at me on this one, but I honestly like to be at Northwestern Stadium. It's a little junky, old WPA built stadium, but it was fun. I really enjoyed watching a football game there, and I understand that sounds horrible. So, our friend from Michigan is asking that question. I have not been to the Big House, so I can't comment on the Big House. I've only been to Ohio Stadium for a high school championship game, so I really can't comment on what that's like. So, of the ones I've been to,
wait a minute, Kinnick? Didn't we go to Kinnick years ago? We went to an Iowa State game there.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it was just a stadium. It was okay.
Yeah, it was just a stadium. And Champaign was just a stadium at Illinois. And that pretty much
I'd like to get to Michigan. I'd like to get to Michigan and Ohio State and get around the Big Ten. I got to figure out these freaking health issues before I can even get out of my house, basically. So you guys are my biggest socialization of the week. All right. Should we take any? There was one more I wanted to hit. Brian Anderson, what about the rumors of Craig Bull coming in after Frost firing? No. Just no. No. It's not going to happen. That's not happening. What else? Is that it?
Well, I think, we can kind of wrap it up here. A win's a win. Let's accept that a win's a win. And it will we've got Georgia Southern coming in. It'll be a night game. I'm sure that they're going to take opportunity, to turn the lights out at the end of the third quarter and have a lot of flames and that kind of stuff, because that's kind of cool and fun, like they did at the Michigan game. It seems to me like Trev Alberts is really overemphasizing fan experience. You can hardly get the guy to, every line that you hear him speak, he's praising fans. I think they realize that they need to do everything they can to keep fans coming into that stadium for ball games. So hopefully that excitement is there on Saturday night. Hopefully the team comes out and they play hard and they execute well and they win the game convincingly. That's what I hope to see on Saturday.
We're going to end with this comment by Brian Anderson. A garbage man can think of a dumpster fire as a win, but it isn't a good way of dealing with trash. Ow. Shots fired.
Brian. Yeah, touche. I'm not that slick.
Yeah. We do have Georgia Southern coming in this week. And like I said earlier, I mean, people are worried about this game, and that kind of tells you everything we need to know about our football program. You know, these are different level teams for a reason, and they are body bag games. I don't know where I got that reference, but that's how I've referred to them the entire time we've been playing these types of games. You pay people to come in and you pay them to lose. And, you know, when you start worrying about your team actually losing to them, you have real serious issues. And I guess, you know, I wish that it wasn't that way, but that's where we're at. And if, you know, I've seen a lot of comments. The last thing, I keep saying the last thing, don't I? Last thing I'll say is, you know, I've seen all these people say, stay positive, stay positive, stay positive. And really what I look at that, I think, okay, if you're talking honestly about our program, is that's being negative, or is this just being realist? Because it's not in a good place right now. These are not 8-year-old rec league soccer players that I coached. You know, I didn't yell at those kids. I didn't yell at them for one reason. And that's because when you're a youth coach, you can ruin more kids from playing sports than you can anything else by yelling stuff at them for no reason. And years ago, I decided, you know, if they weren't playing well, I just wouldn't say anything to them. And they knew if I was quiet that they weren't doing well. So, I don't know where I was going with that. They're not 8-year-old rec league soccer players. I think they, you know, if they can get the accolades for playing Nebraska football and everything that goes with the uniform, they can take some shit too. And I think most of it's directed at their coaches. So I think that's it for this week. Any final thoughts, Todd?
No, just let's hope for a good week and hope for a big win on Saturday, and then we can really start chugging on the OU Kool-Aid, OU Nebraska Kool-Aid, and get all pumped up for a big Nebraska-Oklahoma game, and we'll see what happens. I guarantee you this:
we can do our favorite. Oh, wait, I cut you off, didn't I? Go ahead.
No, here's what I guarantee: if Nebraska beats Georgia Southern this weekend, and then if Nebraska beats Oklahoma, that's going to take things to a whole new level as far as the future of Scott Frost is concerned. That will be
true. He'll have
interesting times
he'll have a signature win.
He'll have a signature win. Okay.
Thanks for showing up, everybody. Thanks for the comments, the questions. We appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your praise. And I'm going to go work on a T-shirt about being some kind of whore. Good night, Todd.
See you, John.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Bye. Thanks for joining us tonight.